real question, generally.
Uh-huh.
Have you, because I really haven't seen you point out any of the negatives on the Israeli side, or at least maybe you used to do it in the past where you'd be like, okay, there's X, Y, and Z and one, two, and three. But for the most part, right now, you just focus on the fact that, okay, I'm on full debate mode. I'm going to debate everybody that has this pro-Palestinian point of view, whatever. But when it comes to the Israeli side and all the shit they're doing, could you strongman the arguments of the pro-Palestinians? Could you do that?
For what? For the current war or for the total conflict, or what do you mean?
No, the current war, the total conflict is going to be way too much of a drag to do right now.
The steelman argument. So what? Like the strongest version of the Palestinian argument against
Yeah,
the
steel
current.
man, strong man. Yeah, yeah, yep.
Um, I mean, the steelman would be that the current operations right now are resulting in a disproportionate amount of civilian casualties and a disproportionate amount of civilian infrastructure that's being destroyed. That the amount of homes, the amount of infrastructure, including energy, hospitals, schools that are being destroyed right now, the 30,000 plus dead, there's probably 10, 20, 30,000 more buried beneath the rubble, is a disproportionate response when you take into account that only 1,200 Israelis died and maybe 200 hostages were taken. That the mission to remove Hamas is not even possible, that maybe you'll kill 50% of Hamas, but that's going to come at the cost of over 100,000 Palestinian lives, that the amount of Palestinian people that you radicalize against Israel as a result of these military operations are going to mean that more of these operations are going to happen in the future, that cutting off like water and food and everything is a collective punishment towards all the Palestinian civilians there. You're causing over 1 million people to leave their homes and head south, and you haven't secured food routes for them, that Israel isn't adhering to their responsibility to deliver humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, and that's why you've got like convoys getting flooded and people being starved. I don't know, this all these types of arguments, I guess.
I, you don't believe those are good arguments, though, right? For or like, you don't believe those are good enough arguments to stop what Israel is doing currently,
No.
or you don't? Why not? Because anybody that would hear all the points that you just pointed out would be like, okay, damn, like, then why aren't you on the pro-Palestinian side? At least when it comes to the ceasefire and get the of Gaza. Like you've already done enough damage.
Because all of the I think I agree that Israel as a country has responsibility for taking care of the Gaza Strip during war. That's just a matter of conflict. You always have responsibility for the enemy civilian population. Even if it's the enemy, you still have a responsibility for it. But Hamas has a responsibility too, and they've neglected that entirely. Hamas does absolutely nothing to protect its civilian population. In opposition to that, they actually put their civilian population in harm's way over and over and over again. Their ability to conduct asymmetrical warfare, meaning they're a small enemy that uses guerrilla warfare tactics and human shields, shouldn't negate Israel's ability to defend itself or remove an incredibly hostile administration that's literally bordering them and has sent thousands and thousands of rockets into the country, tens of thousands of rockets over the past, 15 years. That Israel does need to adhere to their obligations to feed the population, but it's also hard to tell at any given point in time how hungry is the population, because we've been told that the population of Gaza is starving for 2 decades, and before October 7th there wasn't a single death due to starvation. So it doesn't, famine conditions by UNRWA's own admissions have never existed inside Gaza, even though we keep hearing that the place is unlivable. So yeah, I don't know, the reporting on everything is super I think Israel's a right to remove Hamas if they want to. I think most people would agree with that. Yeah, I don't know.
But when you say move Hamas, wouldn't you say that, like, to you, what is removing Hamas from Gaza? Because somebody would look at, or like some people could look at what's going on already and see, holy shit, you've killed a ton of people, you've destroyed damn near the entire place. What more do you want to do till you're satisfied and say, you know what? Yeah, the problem has been neutralized. Hamas is not going to be an issue. Like, to you, what is that? Because at this point, it's crazy. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what eliminate Hamas means. I don't know if that means kill enough of their leaders. I don't know if that means just remove them as administrators. I don't know if that means kill 50% of their fighters. But the end result needs to be that once the war ends, Hamas is not the administrator of the Gaza Strip. I don't know if it means the Palestinian Authority needs to be, or just like Fatah on their own need to be, or if a new administration is put in, or if Israel controls it for 12 months while they figure out what goes on. But something has to happen to where Hamas is not the administrator, because they failed. They've lost. They shouldn't have a mandate from anybody. They've completely and utterly failed in controlling that region.
If that doesn't happen before Israel completely fucking wipes Gaza off of the map and flattens it completely and either kills damn near everybody there or moves them out, like, would you be happy with that? Would you be like, that's good enough?
No, I don't think they should blow everything up. But I mean, it seems like, I don't know, I could dig deeper into it, but like people always say that like Gaza will never recover after this war. Gaza will never, they said that in 2008 after Cast Lead. They said that in 2014 after Protective Edge. Like they've said it over and over again that like the destruction and the damage is impossible to ever repair from, but then they do pretty quickly. Like they get a ton of aid. They've got so much money that pours into there. Maybe if there was an administrator in that region that was doing something with the money besides building tunnels and rockets, maybe it would look a lot better. I don't know. Maybe once Hamas is gone.
But you just said they quickly rebuild as well, and everything, gets back up. So aren't they using that money? Because you just said they're not using it to rebuild the place, but at the same time you said...
I mean, they do. They use some of it to build, but a lot of it is obviously diverted to military operations as well.
All right. Another question. When you say Israel or like Hamas is using asymmetrical warfare and they don't really give a fuck about civilians, and then you morally put them on the same level as the IDF. So like you see Hamas and the IDF as equals, and the Israeli government, I should say, you see them as equals.
Well,
but one is recognized as a terrorist group. So shouldn't the government, the most moral army, the only democracy in the Middle East, be held to a different standard than Hamas, the terrorist group? Because in your mind, you're like, Hamas doesn't give a fuck about the civilians.
We can call Hamas a terrorist group. The reality is Hamas are the administrators to the region. I wouldn't.
They could be that as well, but like
when you say like terrorist group, it's complicated. Usually when you say terrorist group, first of all, there is no universal definition for terrorist group. But usually when you say terrorist group, usually the definition is non-state actor. Or not definition, I'm sorry. Usually what you're implying is a non-state actor. So like, for instance, Al-Qaeda, they kind of have territory now in Yemen. I think they've got like a little itty-bitty dot left for whatever hasn't been annihilated by the Houthis. But like when Al-Qaeda was a terrorist organization, they didn't really control and administer huge areas of land, right? They're like non-state actors. They kind of move around. They've got like mobile bases. They live in other countries. But Hamas is the administrator to the region. They have like population registry. They run like hospitals and schools and infrastructure. So they are the administrator. They're like the governing body de facto, even if not like officially they are. So in times of war, there's two obligations that exist, one on each side. The invading army is supposed to take care not to completely obliterate the civilian population on the other end. It's an important rule of war. But also the people that are defending are also supposed to do what they can to avoid their civilian population getting killed. Israel has done a lot. We can argue that they haven't done enough or it's not working or whatever, but they do a lot. And Hamas does absolutely nothing. So, I mean...
What does Israel do?
What?
You said Israel does a lot. What do they do?
I mean, before like attacks, Israel drops like millions of leaflets from planes. They'll roof knock buildings where they shoot small bombs before big ones to let people flee. They've got like thousands of people that work in calling centers in the IDF that try to make phone calls to buildings to contact heads of households or community leaders to get people to flee. They told people to clear out of an entire region from the north to the south before they like began heavy military operations there. Like again, it's more than any other army in the history of the world has done. We can argue that it isn't enough or some bullshit if you want, but it's more than anybody else has done. Hamas does literally nothing. With all the tunnels they've made, why no bomb shelters? Like
it's more than anybody else does.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've also acknowledged the fact that there's been an incredibly high amount of civilian death.
Yeah, but nobody's fought against an enemy that is embedded this heavily into such a densely populated civilian society. Like that's never happened before.
So, but at this point, you're saying the Palestinian people are fucked on both sides. So they've got Hamas, who doesn't give a fuck about them, and they've got Israel, who doesn't give a fuck about them. In spite of all of the things that you just said,
Israel cares.
Them and they tell them a bomb's about to drop on them.
To
Clearly,
be clear,
that hasn't been fucking working.
Clearly, what do you mean it has been working, right? The deaths it's a lot of deaths, but I mean, it could be.
It's a lot of. Come on, it could be more. That's a terrible argument. You know, it's a terrible argument.
What do you mean? In a single day, what was it? Over 120,000 people were killed in Tokyo from a firebombing run in a single day, right? And that was nowhere near as densely populated as Gaza. So for Gaza, we've got 30,000, which is tragic, but over what?
When was that?
For World War II?
And we're comparing what happened in World War II to what's happening today with the Palestinians.
No, I'm just saying.
Japan to Gaza. They're not equal, though. You do understand that, right?
No, I agree. Gaza, the deaths would be way higher if it was treated similarly.
So at this point, you're saying what Israel is doing is the best possible thing to do.
I mean, possibly. I don't know. I haven't seen suggestions on what could go better, other than perhaps
maybe a ceasefire, maybe pulling out.
Hamas won't agree to any ceasefires that have them like releasing all the hostages or that have them. Like I think there was some.
When you speak about these hostages, are there hostages on the Palestinian side? Like, do the Israelis also hold Palestinian hostages?
No.
Or is that only on? So Israel has no Palestinian hostages.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like any ceasefire that doesn't have all the hostages being released, like, is probably Israel's not going to take it. I don't think Israel's going to want Hamas to remain as the administrators of that region either, which is also, I think, totally fair. But yeah.
Okay. GG.
Okay, I love you. Be careful, buddy. Listen, if I go to Israel, you're going to tag along?
Hell no.
Wow.
You know what? I was about to make a crazy joke, but I'm not going to do that. Anyways, all right. Take care.
Have fun. Be
Appreciate you.
careful.